Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speedy here, and today we're going to be looking at TOPSON'S morphling. This is a morphling that literally T1 first phases every single time they seemingly can. They don't care about the matchup. Literally, they just pick it no matter what, and that's crazy to me. Morph definitely seems like it's going to be one of the top tier mids and safe laners of the patch, so if you happen to be either one of those roles, this video is for you, as I'm going to show you exactly how he plays it. And even though this is a mid replay analysis, if you're thinking about playing this hero in the safe lane, you're going to learn basically everything you need to know, outside of the fact that the farming rotation will slightly change, of course, because you're mid. Also, I want to tell you guys that if you've been struggling with solo queue and you're looking to get to the next rank, I'm going to be able to help you. Like, literally, with the Game Leap website, I'm going to give you guys guides that are going to make it unbelievably clear on what you need to do. So if you've been stuck in the solo queue grind, you don't know what to do, and you want to become absolutely broken, but like actually you want to become much better at Dota, and you want to take it more seriously, the Game Leap website is going to help you do that. So click the link down below, I'm going to help you get to the next rank, and I'll see you there. Alright, so I'm going to spend practically no time on the early laning stage, because you literally only auto attack. There's nothing special about this hero early on. However, the only thing to mention is the shift rate of attribute shift is 5 now at level 1. Back in the day, it literally was, if you go to any of my old morphling videos, you would hear me talk about the level 3 spike on morphling, where the hero could shift at a rate of 3. Now at level 1, it shifts at a rate of 5. So you can imagine why this hero is better just in that regard. It's way easier to keep yourself alive if you get pressured, and it's also extremely easy to just stay low HP and heal up whenever you need. On top of that, what's really broken about this hero is Adaptive Strike. They buffed the ability significantly and simply gave Morphling way better stats. The hero has better HP regen, base HP regen, better base mana regen. This ability costs less mana now. This ability doesn't cost as much mana at level 1, so literally it's cheaper at level 1. So you can see Morphling is way better at level 2, like way better. Both of its abilities are just significantly better. Adaptive Strike even does more damage, and so essentially what I want to show you guys here is that at level 2, you're going to see TOPSON put a lot of pressure under the tower here. 66 base damage, very impressive what you can do with that. And he's even nuking the Primal Beast practically off cooldown, right? Even using the Strength Adaptive Strike to prevent him from denying the range creep and securing the CS. So this combination is incredibly good, as yeah, he literally is spamming it on the Primal. It does get pressured pretty hard here. Ooh, nice little bump back under the tower. Probably not going to be able to kill him. He's going to look for it. He was close. He was considering going for the W, but yeah, this might seem like a disastrous situation, but it's really not, because with 48 damage, even though he's up to a pretty significant amount of strength, with 48 damage, if you're decent, you can still last it. And as long as you get to your bottle timing mid, right, obviously in the safe lane, you're going to be prioritizing stick. That's going to essentially be your bottle, stick, and maybe a mango. But as long as you eventually get to this timing, you're chilling. Because what you can do on Morphling mid is just so stupid. Because of the shift rate is so low, you can put the second point in W. Like, unironically, he has 1 point attribute shift. Do you guys remember a point in Dota's history where Morphling wouldn't take attribute shift at level 3? I don't. I don't. Now you do that. Because if you take it, it literally just costs more mana and you don't even need the shift rate. So you just take Adaptive Strike, it becomes a way better ability, and now you can shift all the way down, right? You can do the shift trick. Just to show you what I'm talking about, if you go down to minimum strength, right? You can see he's at 1 strength here. If you go down to minimum strength and then just shift back up, it literally gives you free HP. I'm not kidding, it just gives you free health. And then if you bottle, you're back up to full HP, because your HP pool is so low that you're back up to full HP in no time. So this is why this hero is insane mid, and it's why TOPSON can play it into like any matchup that isn't Shadow Fiend. Even then he did okay, like he did die if you guys watched that game, but his game was still like fine. It was eventually fine. And that's what's so stupid about this hero. So next up, TOPSON's gonna max out waveform actually, and he's gonna pick up a null and a raindrop. Pretty interesting build, really nice reaction to the blast off there. But pretty interesting build, just a lot of mana regen, and I kind of like it. You don't really need the Wraith Band, as your hero has plenty of armor, especially if you have a lot of Agi. You'll have a ton of armor, so armor's not really a problem on this hero. On top of that, the attack speed you get from Wraith Band is really good, but I can see why he would prioritize the mana regen. Especially on something like mid-morph that might get pretty active, you definitely want the mana regen to spam out your spells, as you will be skilling both of your abilities as you can see here, right? Typically, old morph would only take one of the two abilities. It was very uncommon to take both, but that is obviously not this build, so extra mana regen is good. Also, I will admit, I'm a little bit confused why he doesn't play Magic Wand, just because I think Magic Wand is pretty broken on Morphling. You get so much value out of it when you shift down to minimum strength. So I guess Bottle kind of solves that problem as well. I just feel like having both is kind of insane. He did pick up the Null as well, and I feel like having the earlier wand would actually make his lane even better. So that's something to consider. From there, Morphling's pretty simple. You don't really want to rotate. You generally just want to push in the lane. And if the enemy mid ganks, you're basically going to stay mid and pressure the tower with your really, really high damage and high attack speed. Of course, you could respond to ganks. Like theoretically, you could buy a magic wand, like I was saying, pop a clarity, and then try to use your ulti, right? Because obviously it requires a lot of mana to use your ulti. But instead, Topson, in almost every game I've watched on him of this Morphling, generally opts to stay mid and just farm. It's very uncommon to see him rotate. And that's pretty cool because Topson is obviously known for his rotations. He's known to be the guy who moves around the map. But on Morphling, he basically always just sits mid, gets up his farm, and goes from there. One cheeky little play that Topson made here that I thought was really cool because it's straight up efficient but a little bit weird is taking the enemy tri-camp large camp. So this is just not what I would have expected. The Lion camps the Arcane Rune for him here, and comically enough, this camp is actually the closest camp. On top of that, it puts him in a position to gank top if he so chooses, right? So if he wanted to gank top, going to this camp rather than this camp is actually way better. And it's definitely something to consider. If you're playing a hero, any mid hero that can take the rune and look to take that camp, it's actually going to enable you to gank top as well. So it's a really efficient and effective play that Topson made. And now take a look at his current skill build. It's kind of gross, not gonna lie, it looks extremely weird, but he maxes out waveform at 7, goes back for the ulti at 11. He skilled his ulti at 11, you heard that right. Took his talent at level 10. Comically took the magic resistance, which is generally not what you'd see, but I guess against techies and something like Primal Beast, there's a lot of burst potential in the early game where he could die from full HP. So I think he's somewhat adapting to that, and I respect it and like this build a lot. Not what I would have expected, but it is what he does. On top of that, he actually only has 2 points in attribute shift, which is so weird, but you just don't need it anymore, right? At level 2, it's 10 shift rate. I mean, that's plenty. Right, you're probably not going to get bursted through 10 shift rate, and as a result, you can max your nukes. And it's a big deal when you can max your nukes, as we actually see him go for a kill on the Tusk here. Will he be able to make this happen? I don't think so. He's going for it. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, this is the thing about Morphling. It's really mana intensive to go for these types of kills, and you really only can gank or solo kill these like tanky strength heroes if they have very specific spells that you steal. Like Tusk is honestly a great example of a hero that Morphling is quite good against early on, because having 2 maxed out nukes is just extremely strong. Right, as we're gonna see him go for the kill onto the Tusk here. Beautiful execution. You always want to turn back into Morphling after casting the spells, otherwise you won't right click very hard. And because both of his spells are maxed out, he gets the kill. Old Morphling simply doesn't get the kill there. It's really that straightforward. You just wouldn't, because you'd have more points in your E. Next up, Topson's still gonna farm the jungle, right? After all, Morphling is still a hard carry at the end of the day. Even from the mid lane, he's gonna put most of his emphasis on fighting. Especially if you do go for a gank and your morph is on cooldown and your resources are low, you should generally look to avoid the fight, split the map, and just hit your next timing. For him, that's going to be the Manta, and it's basically Manta every game. Manta allows you to dispel Vessel if they decide to buy it against you, which most teams will. It allows you to get away from silences like Techie Silence, which is pretty key this game. It can allow him to Manta dodge the ET, Manta dodge the Tusco, get away from Pounce in an effective way. So it's really just a brutally good item, good stats, good utility, and on top of that, good split pushing, which with Morphling, the illusions hit so incredibly hard, which we'll see that they can easily clear through entire creep waves. But yeah, anytime you can get some open space with Morphling, he takes extremely good use of it because you just shred buildings, right? So if you get left alone, you're going to be able to take towers. Definitely look to take tier 1 towers as Morphling if the enemy team shows. But we're going to see him show up mid here and just beautiful execution. And it's important that when you're playing Morphling, you go into every single team fight with an exact idea of who you're going to morph into. If you don't do this, honestly, you're just making a big mistake, as your brain is going to get fried, because this hero is hard to play. It has a lot of buttons it needs to click. So if you don't know who you're probably, and I say probably because Dota's a hard game, can't always turn into the same person, but I would say 8 out of 10 fights or something like that, you're probably going to be able to get who you want. Morph has a pretty decent cast range, and it's not like you have to be that afraid of most heroes, so you can generally get who you want. In this game, it's a great idea for him to go onto the Tusk, hits a 2-man charge into a 2-man snowball. Actually, the snowball didn't hit Tusk, but secures both of the kills, exploding the Slark, dealing like 800 magical damage in a second, and that's the power of the current Morphling, especially when you can turn into a hero with nukes like that. The other hero that I saw TOPSON turn into that I thought made a lot of sense and was very similar to Tusk was actually a support Tiny, right? Which makes sense. Having Avalanche in the early game, just this low cooldown nuke that you can shift between, is key. You don't really want to turn into heroes that you need to like stay in their form to use. You just want to turn into a Tiny, Ava toss combo, or Ava click, click, nuke, waveform, toss, click, click, you know what I mean? Something along those lines. That's what Morphling really loves, especially when the hero has disables, because Morphling doesn't do a lot of damage. So other heroes he could turn into this game, Slark when he gets Ags, extremely good. Primal Beast, very, very good. Honestly, very good morph targets this game. Even ET, to some extent, to close the gap, is pretty solid. And we'll actually see that in this upcoming clip here. I forgot about this, but I did catch some of this game live, and what he did was really impressive in this upcoming fight, and you could see the prowess of Morphling. On top of that, at level 15, he actually takes Morph Duration, so prioritizing that. A little bit surprising. I like the Agi talent, but he decides that this is better, and especially if you're going Ags, which he is, then it makes quite a bit of sense. We'll talk about the Ags in a bit. Either way, he actually doesn't take the second point in Morph. It does lower the cooldown significantly, but yeah, he just seems to think that maxing out the other abilities and taking the talents is better. All right, next up, let's look at this crazy dive. So they go in bottom, they don't get the kill, and Zephyr gets put in a really bad spot on his clockwork, but look how crazy this is. This is also why the Mantas are so broken. They hit so hard, right? Just so you have a little bit of perspective of this, right? This Slark comes out, and he's going for the techies, but this Slark is getting annihilated by illusions. He's basically losing the fight, right? This Slark is like 1 HP, and TOPSON realizes this out of the corner of his eye. He actually realizes this. This guy's awareness is insane, right? TOPSON's mid-game fight awareness is just something else, because he sees the Slark down here, realized he had a potential to kill him, tries to onslaught and trample through, unfortunately doesn't get the kill, but explodes him anyway, dealing half his health in a burst combo, and now they have to disengage. He actually considers going for the primal, but his spells are on cooldown. Techies, on the other hand, is doing some psycho shit and goes down. So really beautifully played fight from TOPSON. All of a sudden, he's level 17, and the highest level on the enemy team is 14. This is what you call a beatdown, and yeah, it's just pretty straightforward gameplay. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's easy, right? What he does is so impressive, so fluid. He makes almost no mechanical mistakes, and so everything is easier said than done. So next up, TOPSON is going to buy Ags, and Morphling Ags is straight up one of the best Ags in the entire game. It's actually crazy to me how good this Ags actually is. So if you don't know what it does, basically it steals 20% of the enemy's stats. As far as I'm concerned, how the ability reads is that it steals all of their stats. It steals their strength, their agi, and their int. It doesn't steal just their primary attribute, which is originally what I thought it did. However, based on the target's primary attribute, let's say you're turning into a centaur, not only do you steal the centaur's strength, agi, and int, and yes, I'm specifically using the word steal because not only do you get it, you take it away from them, right? So they become less tanky. They have less armor, less int, right? They have less of everything. But if they're a strength hero, you also get status resist from them. And on top of that, most importantly, because you're typically turning into Agi heroes, unless there's like a Pudge carry, that's kind of an interesting one, where you can turn into the Pudge and steal most of his strength. Regardless of that fact, he's just going to be able to turn into Slark, and you'll see how much harder he's going to actually hit when he steals 20% of Slark's stats. And it's just stealing, even if it didn't give you the bonus attack speed, which by the way got buffed recently, it was 50 attack speed, now it's 70. The spell amp was also buffed, and so was the status resist, so this axe is just straight up way better now. But he gets initiated upon here, lives, yeah, just such a tanky hero. Gets off his spells, shifts all the way down, generally in between fights as he he swaps in the fairy fire. You love to see it. Swaps in the fairy fire because he might want to use it to heal up a little bit. Actually doesn't. Okay, he pops it just for giggles, but we'll see him pop the Ags in a moment here. And yeah, let's take a look in very slow motion at what it does to the Slark and what it does to the morphling and why it's so good. So Slark's about to pounce on him, and let's take a look at how much it actually steals and why it's so good. So Slark pounces in, he's at 1700 HP, and the morphling is going to shift into him. And you'll see immediately when morphling shifts into him, he just gets like 200 HP removed. I mean, that's pretty crazy, right? That's actually a really significant amount of health. Was it more than I thought as well? No, okay, yeah, it was about 200 HP. So Slark, right off the bat, gets nuked for 200 pure damage. And that's not even that bad, right? Slark's HP pool is pretty low, so that's not the end of the world. But the bigger thing here is Slark has about 100 agi, a lot of it's stolen. But he loses a huge percentage of his agi as well, losing about 20 agi as well. That's massive. That's 20 damage, 20 attack speed, and 3 armor. And also, I think his attack speed gets stolen. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if you also steal attack speed or if you just get bonus attack speed. That one I'm not too sure on, so I'm not going to say I know. But Morphling gets all of this from the Slark, and of course gets to turn into him as well. And what's huge is he also gets the Ag's upgrade of Slark. So if he pounces on people, he gets 2 pounce charges and can steal agi, right? He can get the bonus essence shift stacks with the Slark. And that's why this matchup's kind of dangerous for Slark. Morphling turning into Slark with Ags is so freaking good because you get Dark Pact, which is really good for Morphling, just being able to dispel yourself, and the mobility is insane, as well as the agi that you steal is extremely good as he steals even more agi on the back end of that fight. So you get to see how effective this Ags actually is at neutering whatever hero you turn into. It makes them way weaker, especially if it's a hero like Pudge and you're stealing 600 HP from him later on into the game. That happens, and it just goes all to the Morphling. And just for a little bit of perspective, when you start to get really ahead on Morphling, your spells do so much damage as well. I mean, take a look at this Slark here. He gets gone on. The Morphling just comes in from a huge range and blows him up, completely deleting the Slark. And you'll see in this clip here, he just does such a good job of turning into the Slark. The cast range of Morph is actually so high, right? I mean, look at the range. It's crazy high, so you can basically always turn into whoever you want. And just gets the long range pounce, locking down the Slark, taking him out with only a couple of autos, chases onto the ET. Just, this hero's just nuts, man. Morphling, when he gets off to a good start, is insane. And by the way, let's say you have some bad matchups. Let's say they have a Lion. You can buy your shard. It gives you bonus agi, bonus strength, but most importantly, you can shift when you're stunned. So even if you're countered by something like Void or Lion, right, these instant disables, or Shaker, these heroes that typically counter Morphling because they can try to kill him from full, you just buy your shard and it's not much of a problem. Honestly, in this next fight, I don't even think TOPSON knows what's going on, but he's got his BKB, so he's invincible, like literally completely untouchable at this point in the fight. Even gets kicked into the backline, but it doesn't matter. Gets the defensive pounce away, pops his BKB. Probably wasn't even the best BKB usage. He wasn't really threatened by anything at the moment. Doesn't matter. Oh, this is crazy. He has 3 permanent agi as well. Let's go. 3 perma agi. It seems like you actually don't keep the stacks when you shift back to Morphling, so I guess turning into Slark isn't completely OP. Either way, yeah, this hero, you can see, this hero, because of the fact that you don't have to max out your E now, you're just way better early on. Your Ags is straight up insane, and you have a shard that just makes you be able to morph while you're stunned, and he gets it from Roche this game. Such a good, such a value shard to get from the second Roche, which Morphling often will get. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I plan on reviewing probably one of Anna's games, maybe his Carry Undying. That was pretty interesting. Maybe his Anna. I know he popped off on Anna as well. That was a really cool game, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the Game Leap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.